you're seeing is lines of lyric that combine these strategies. So for example, she's wheeled into the hallway till the sun moves down the floor, from this beautiful song Child Again by Beth Nielsen Chapman. You know, we have the protagonist, she. We know who the character is, and we also have this compelling image in that first line. So
okay, at this point, and this is a very short epic section, but not to worry. Let's see what we had from back here. Ah, yes. So here I might take the brass. So just keep it a bit more brooding so we got somewhere to grow. So I'm not necessarily working chronologically along the track, as you can see here.
This is the power of modes. This is really the whole point of modes. Understanding them as a list is important to start with. Understanding them as a number sequence, important if you want to learn how to play them or sing them. But really, in terms of getting your head around the modes and understanding why they're important, this is it. The personalities of each one being unique, this is the whole point of modes. This is why so many people treat them with so much respect and so many composers spend so much time thinking about them. It's because they are just so valuable to, in terms of getting the right personality for your track.
Sample. And do you guys know how resampling works within Ableton Live? No. This is a really cool technique actually for anything you might like to do in Ableton Live. So I'm going to insert a new audio track. And what resampling does, it means that basically whatever your master, like whatever you're hearing through your speakers is coming through your master channel, right? What Ableton does when you resample, it actually takes that signal, not from your speakers, but the master out, and it sends it back into an audio track. So you can do some, you can resample your master and, you know, you can just do some crazy wacky stuff with whatever you've just sampled from yourself. So I'd recommend looking at what you can do with resampling after this, because it's really cool. But for this, I'm simply going to solo my bass. And I'm going to set my input. If I just click here, you've got external in, configure, and you've got resampling here. Awesome. Keep monitoring off, which is important because if you monitor what you're recording through the master, you could create a crazy feedback loop. And I'm going to solo the bass. So like when you bounce something out and you've got something solid, it will only bounce out what's solid. So I'm just going to resample the bass.
This goes to what Danny was asking about. I always sing the same melodies, or even if I change the chords, it's got the same feel. One exercise you can do to kind of get out of any of those sorts of habits is to say to yourself, I'm going to write a sad song, which are, for me, the easiest, but I'm going to do it in a major key. Because generally, if we want to write a sad song, we'll go, oh, A minor. Whoops. Trusty A minor. Blah, blah, blah. A minor. But you can write a sad song in major too if you use melody notes that aren't in your chord. So it's the opposite of what I told you to do before. Okay. How to add that special color.
So to start off, it's all about finding your voice. Now, there's two sides of the spectrum here that I've just laid out. Pretty cheesy, I know, but you know, you've got somebody like Sia who lets her music do the talking. You know, for the longest time, she was hidden behind a veil of sorts, and she stayed out of the limelight. And people didn't really know who she was. Versus Kanye, we've seen every phase of his every emotion over the past 20 odd years. So we know that there's two very different types of paths that you can take as artists. But one of the really important things to do is to look at how you feel yourself, so how you feel you can represent yourself. It's different for everybody, and it will evolve as you move through your sort of life cycle of a project and bring into maturity that artistry. But the questions I'm about to ask should help you find your voice, find where to promote that voice, and find how to really gain traction with that.
So the thing that I will do is just set the tempo and set the time signature. Okay. So at the moment, it's sitting around 91. I'm going to bring that right down to about 60. Typically, unless I've got a real clear idea of what I want to do, I sit around that because it's a more of a based on time. So 60 beats per minute is, 1 second, 1 beat per second. Okay. I'm also going to have to bring in some bar lines because at the moment, I actually can't see where my bars are, where anything's going on. So I'm just going to bring in those, bring in my meter. I'm going to change this so I can see my bars. My grid's already on, and now I can actually bring that to the start of the bar. I'm going to bring it to grid so it actually snaps to it. And then I'm going to zoom in and pretty much start getting busy.